Welcome back, my friends. My name is Jack, I am a snack, and I have a nice butt crack. Today's story is an interesting one. Well, one of many, as we learn in this first story, where a mother begins to realize that her babysitters are more so kidnappers. The story begins back in 2019, in the good old days where it was socially acceptable to spit on your grandma's face without any fear of damage to her health. Please forgive me if this doesn't make any sense. I'm kind of enraged at the moment, so my mind is all over the place. My son's babysitters, who were friends at the time and were trusted, had guardianship over him in case of medical emergencies while he was in their care while I worked. I stopped working 2 years ago, almost 3, and told them I would no longer need them to watch my child since we were planning to move to a different state anyway, and I ended their guardianship after they tried to keep my son from me and told him that he could live with them forever and that I never wanted or loved him like they do. Since stopping their guardianship, they followed us around grocery stores, comes up and stops us in stores and tries to force my child to come to them, and when he doesn't, they'll cry and make a scene, messaging me consistently about when they could have him, kept and continues to be posting about how much they miss my child, ask my family members, mainly my sister, if they can see him or how he's doing, or if my family can send them pictures of my son, even asking them numerous numbers of times to stop and just leave us alone. They still continue to do these things. It's getting to the point where I have to avoid certain parts of the county that we live in just to stay away from them. If they see that I'm tagged somewhere on Facebook by a friend, they'll show up, even if it's over 30 minutes away. So my question is, what can I do at this point? I'm pretty sure this falls under harassment, considering I've asked them to stop trying to contact me or my child, but I'm still not 100% sure on what exactly I can do. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. A quick edit to add, my son is currently in the process of going to therapy because he's scared that they're gonna try to take him away again. There was one point in time that they took him out of the county for a week and wouldn't let me get my child. Since they had guardianship, told me they were allowed to take him without my consent, and there was nothing I could do about it. When I finally got him back after the week was over, I cut contact and went and filed to end their guardianship. So there's obviously no reason to even ponder the thought that maybe this kid actually wants to be with this other family. At least, well, this is from the OP's point of view, but still, if they genuinely believed they were better for this child than its own mother was, they'd be calling Child Protective Services. You know, they'd be applying a bit more of the law on their side here, rather than trying to go through some technicality to get their hands on the kid. In regards to this original story, the top comment was merely suggesting to file a restraining order, which, again, makes sense. You want the law on your side here, and that's the best thing you can do. But for those of us who are still a bit skeptical, I'm gonna keep myself open to things. This mega thread does copy and paste a few comments that were in the original post and help us explain and better understand what the mother is talking about here. In regards to explaining the guardianship, was there some sort of possession or period of time that they were allowed to have the child and that she just changed her mind on things? Was it even a guardianship, or are they just using this as an example of the situation? They explained that I allowed them to seek treatment for him if something happened while they were babysitting. They were notified that they no longer had guardianship and were given the option to petition it, which they didn't. So there's nothing else but what's written. They had become obsessed with my child. When they had him in their care and were out in public, they would tell everyone that they adopted him. So yeah, it's being revealed that these people are definitely rather, crazy? Another commenter, though, would like to ponder what the hell they were thinking offering guardianship and not some other legalized documentation, as they seem to explain here. Basically, they become skeptical that this person has given them guardianship and just so you could babysit them? I mean, you don't give guardianship to someone unless you are genuinely hoping they take care of your child. Perhaps by saying to them that she's offering guardianship, they genuinely believed that she was giving her child away. Then suddenly, after practicing what was offered to them in the first place, they're freaking out, thinking that this mother has gone insane and is suddenly trying to keep her child that she was originally giving away to them. OP defends herself, saying that they were 22 at the time, and I knew nothing about how this worked. They presented me with the guardianship forms. The courts called me and told me that they were only allowed to seek medical treatment if something happened in their care, which was stated in the guardianship forms. Also, that I could retract their guardianship at any time, and I agreed to that. I didn't know that a POA could be used. Honestly, at the time, I didn't know how any of it worked because I was an idiot. At the time, it seemed like a good idea, which obviously I know it wasn't now. So yeah, with all that said, the best advice, again, as we read earlier, was to simply file a restraining order. Now becomes the question, based on this new update, did she go through with it? We have our usual spiel, letting us know they wanted to give an update. Apologies for the terrible format. Anyway, so I had contacted a lawyer about the potential kidnappers, because that's what they are, not really babysitters, and I found out they lied to me for a year or two about having guardianship of my son. This was explained in the original post, but brief rundown about it was they requested guardianship to be able to take him to the hospital for treatment if anything happened in their care. Being young and dumb, apparently courts never pushed it through because they didn't contact my son's biological father after being told they needed to do that. I didn't know any of this until about a month ago after the lawyer had dug up a bunch of stuff. They lied about having guardianship and held it over my head in order for me not to come pick up my son from their care, and so they could take him out of the county or state without my consent. Anyway, they're currently going through court for potentially trying to kidnap someone else's kid after being paid to watch the second child. Apparently, they filed for emergency custody of the second child after not allowing the mother to come pick up their child. Since it's an ongoing case, I can't give too many details about it, but I'm being called in as a witness for their obsessive behavior and manipulation tactics. They are no longer allowed to contact me, my child, or any family members about myself and my child. So yeah, let's just review that last paragraph there. Her friends, let's remember, they were her friends. Can't deal with her right now. She can't take them to court right now because they're too busy dealing with another court case where they've tried to steal someone else's child. This isn't just a one-off thing. They are genuinely trying to kidnap other people's kids. Thoughts from the comments. Babysitters were much older than the OP and used OP's vulnerability and naivete to earn her trust and slowly get her children. Terrifying and disgusting. This reminds me of a story I heard on NPR a few weeks ago. A childless couple befriended a woman with several sons, started with babysitting the youngest, getting more and more legal control over him, and eventually convinced the mother to let them adopt him. The mum in that case didn't speak English and was taken advantage of at every turn. It was absolutely heartbreaking. Predators can always identify people that are easily taken advantage of, and they will do absolutely horrific things to get their hands on a child. And for those of you who are interested in knowing more about this story, I recommend just simply Googling a child lost in translation. There's many sites that have the podcast available for you to listen to. I feel like if my mum showed up to pick me up from a babysitter and someone was not allowing her to take me when I was a kid, that someone would be dead. Let's hear an update on a story that's a bit more wholesome, though. I think I, a 51 male, am falling for my son's friend's dad, a 56-year-old male. What do I do? I'm aware that it sounds crazy. My son, 28 male, has been friends with this guy since college, and considering we're both single fathers, I'm a widow, he's divorced, with similar interests, they decided to introduce us to each other. We get along so well. After my wife passed, I really haven't gotten out much, so having a true friend again means a lot to me. Most of the time when we get together, it's over dinner, which usually ends up feeling like a date. Sometimes we watch movies together, and he doesn't move away if I move closer to him. We have these moments of tension where we just look at each other, and I feel the same things I've always felt for women. To clarify, we're both straight. I may have had some less than straight thoughts about other men when I was younger, but I loved my wife, so I always assumed it was just hormones. I hate myself for posting sappy stuff like this, but he makes me feel things I've never felt before. I think about him all the time, and we're always texting each other in a way that feels flirtatious to me. I'm not sure if he's aware of that, though. I've always said I would never date after losing my wife, and I know he feels similarly about his ex. I know he still harbors feelings for her. I've thought about it a lot, and I would be open to dating him specifically. Kids think we're just good friends, which isn't wrong, but I swear there's more there. My son has jokingly called him my boyfriend, and it felt so good even if he didn't mean it. I feel stuck. Do I do? And shortly after, there's a lovely update. Or is it? Oh no, it might be bad. Oh, gotta keep you guessing, otherwise you won't watch. Alright, so I finally sat down with him and had the big conversation. I'm not the best storyteller, so bear with me. First, I took him out to a fancy restaurant and made every effort to treat it like a date. I drove, I paid, I held open doors for him. I tried my best to flirt with him. Typical date things. I think he definitely noticed my advances, as he seemed a lot more flustered, in a good way, than I've ever seen him. Afterwards, we went back to my place and watched a movie. Unfortunately, I didn't have the balls to put my arm around him or anything else people suggested to me. At this point, I was definitely panicking. I felt that I had already pushed the boundaries a bit too far for one night. At one point, I guess he noticed how tense I was, as he asked if I had any wine. I did. We drank about a bottle each, and once we were thoroughly tipsy, he asked why I was being so weird. I told him I had a lot on my mind, and he asked if I wanted to talk about it. Anyway, this led to a discussion about how hard it is to talk about feelings, especially when you're a man. I saw my opportunity, and I brought up how I was pretty sure I was attracted to men when I was younger, but didn't feel I could embrace that due to society. He nodded and said he could relate to that. After that, we just kind of looked at each other for a minute, and I wanted to kiss him so badly, but I didn't. He asked me if I had just taken him out on a date, and I said that if he wanted it to be a date, then it absolutely could have been. He told me he definitely wanted it to be a date. At that point, I was so overwhelmed with emotions, I didn't know what to do with myself, but we ended up just hugging him, and I thanked him for always being so good to me. We made plans for him to take me out on a date as a rebuttal, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. Thank you all so much for your advice and kind words. You all gave me the courage to push myself to do all of this. There's still a lot I have to work on so far as my sexuality goes, but at least I scored a second date. Now moving on to being in a really awkward situation as a cleaner. You ever tried to just do your side hustle and end up accidentally falling into some sort of weird roleplay porno set? Yeah, that's relatable. I'm a professional house cleaner in a large city. My first house today was beautiful and pretty big, 4,000 plus square feet. I had never cleaned this house before today. It's kind of interesting to clean the home of people you have never actually met while they are not home. I never snoop, but I do learn about people just by the state of their house or whatever is out. These people seemed like they really needed us. I would guess they are busy and don't have much time for cleaning and organizing, but definitely have an active Smex life judging by the master bedroom. I love cleaning dirty houses and was like amping myself up, doing a mini Rocky training montage warm-up and finding the perfect music to work to. Pandera. I was sweating like 4 hours in, but I was getting this house sparkling. All I had left to clean were the floors when a man walked in. I welcomed him home and let him know I just needed to clean the floors and would be finished soon. Super confused, and then kind of grinned and asked if I was his birthday gift. I didn't really know what he meant. Maybe his wife scheduled the service on his birthday? I just answered with, maybe? Happy birthday, Mr. Henricks? To which he looked even more confused and told me his name was not Henricks. Well, that's because his next door neighbor, my actual client, is Mr. Henricks. I walked my happy booty into the wrong fricking house and cleaned the hell out of it. And then the guy who lived there came home and thought I was a Smex worker role-playing as a house cleaner hired by his wife as a birthday present. I was so totally embarrassed explaining myself to this guy and my boss. The entry instructions in the app said the client wouldn't be home, but that there was a key under the mat. There was no key under the mat, but the front door was unlocked. This is not even the first time in my life that I have let myself into the wrong house, although the first time was not a work thing. On the plus side, dude was so happy with how clean his house was that I finished the floors and he paid me what my company would have charged him, plus a tip. So in a way, he still got a happy ending. Now see, here's the thing. Whole house is spotless. Wife comes home and is amazed at how it looks. Husband takes credit. Lovemaking ensues. Everyone wins. I had the total opposite happen once. Hired a maid to clean. About 2 hours in, my neighbor came over to chat and grab a beer. The maid was pretty attractive, but she seemed kinda ticked off. The neighbor then asked me where I hired the maid, to which I respond, Craigslist. he just starts bursting up laughing. You didn't hire a maid, you hired a hooker. She's ticked off because you are stupid. Okay, but hang on. If you're advertising that you're gonna be a maid, I mean, you pretty much are being a maid. And for 200, you get anal.
Okay, deal. I want the floor spotless, like clean enough to eat off of.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where it doesn't help that words have two meanings. Now over to Am I the A-hole, where some families have the most ridiculous requests. Am I the a-hole for not cancelling our wedding because the sister-in-law is getting divorced? My fiance and I are getting married in September. My fiance's sister just found out her husband and father of their 3 kids was cheating on her for the past 2 years, and he left the house, and they're getting a divorce. My sister-in-law is very distraught by this, of course, since she's been with him since they were 19. They're 34 now. Since they're getting a divorce, now everyone from my fiance's side of the family demands that we cancel our wedding to show solidarity and support to my sister-in-law. They also believe it will be improper to celebrate while my sister-in-law is getting divorced and left alone with 3 kids. My sister-in-law also demands it and says there's no ifs and buts, and the wedding is getting cancelled, and it's the respectful thing to do. While I truly feel for her and her situation, I don't understand what our wedding has to do with it, and how cancelling it will help her feel better. I understand being at a wedding is going to feel bittersweet, but her divorce and our wedding are 2 separate occasions, and I don't feel like we should cancel anything. My fiancé agrees on everything and was the first one to say how it's completely unreasonable to cancel our wedding. My sister-in-law and my fiancé's parents think they're being extremely selfish and inconsiderate. So am I the a-hole? And the OP's thoughts as to how they could be? We may be the a-hole because we don't take into consideration the tough time my sister-in-law is going through, and we decided we'll proceed with our wedding regardless. Obviously, the comments are all basically Natar. I mean, this is one of those stories where you just have to think, why would you need to go on this subreddit of all places to get an opinion on this? Obviously, you're not the a-hole. Aita stories like this, however, do give you a bit of a thought experiment. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my boyfriend after he botched an expensive meal? Hi all. Last Thursday, I went to the grocery store to pick up some stuff because I was planning on making my boyfriend, 23 male, and I, 23 female, a nice dinner on Friday night. Neither of us make that much money, so it's pretty rare for us to splurge on a meal. Anyways, I got scallops, crab meat, prime rib, etc., and the meal ended up being around $140. We were both excited, and I was planning on making it right after I got home from work on Friday. I told him that I wanted to make the whole meal because I knew he has been working hard these past few weeks. He's in construction, and he agreed. Well, Friday comes around, and he's calling me at 4 p.m. He told me that he wanted to surprise me with a nice meal, so he was attempting to prepare everything himself, but it wasn't going well. He was trying to make the crab cakes, but he completely screwed up the batter, and for some reason, he thought the scallops were supposed to go in the fryer instead of being seared in a pan. There was a lot going wrong. Those are just 2 examples. The prime rib also got fricked up because he didn't even bother to prep it before putting it in the oven. I told him I was going to do all of that because it wouldn't take me that long. Anyways, I started getting frustrated on the phone and told him he should have listened and let me prep everything when I got home. I told him it was an expensive meal and that we just wasted $140 on something that isn't even gonna taste good anymore. He told me he doesn't think he did anything wrong and it's the thought that matters. I told him that was ridiculous and hung up because I had to get back to work. When I got home, I was able to save the prime rib, sort of, and make 3 small crab cakes with the remaining crab meat that he didn't use. But I was, and still am, pretty frustrated over the situation. Am I the a-hole for getting angry at my boyfriend over this? OP doesn't really give much of a concisive thought on how they could be the a-hole here. Basically just, they think they might be an a-hole because they expressed frustration. I mean, yeah, I feel like you could apply a bit more thought to it though. Currently, the biggest support goes to an Natar. Instead of planning his own surprise, he basically tried to take over the nice thing you had planned. So his thinking was to try and prep the food without even checking you about how the food should be prepared and what you wanted to do with the ingredients. Not exactly a lot of thought went into this decision, so I'm not sure why he thinks he should get credit for it. It's the thought that matters. Yes, when giving a physical gift, yes, when doing something that you have the skills to do it right. No, when it comes to doing something you cannot do right. To follow the boyfriend's logic, if he tried to tune up your engine even though he knows nothing about auto maintenance and he causes a ton of damage, he did waste the money you'd invested in the meal. You told him why you wanted to make the meal yourself, and he agreed. You're not the a-hole. Hearing some opposite viewpoints, this is an unpopular opinion, have at me, but you're tough for yelling over a meal. I get the expense, but he's right. The thought absolutely does count. How lovely to have someone wanting to surprise you to take the effort out of it all for you, just unfortunately discovering their culinary limits while at it. While I would be super frustrated and angry, I wouldn't yell at him over this. It's not a heavy enough situation for that. It's a serious conversation worthy, not yell worthy. I'm confused with people also saying that he stole her idea. This is something planned between these two people. This isn't like some sort of boardroom meeting where he's heard her like proposal or something and then he's stolen it for the meeting the next day. Personally, I gotta say Natar, but only in the lightest of sense towards him being the a-hole. Maybe I guess I'm more of an everyone sucks here about it. Only in the fact that I understand someone isn't going to really feel like apologizing to you if in their attempt to help out in this amazing plan you have together, that your response is to yell at them and make them feel ashamed and stupid. Yes, he was stupid, but you could have conveyed that to them in a more supportive tone. I think this man is absolutely an idiot, but he's not malicious as these comments are trying to imply. Of course, that just comes purely from our perspective of reading the story. Maybe he is an absolutely malicious man on the inside. Well, my friends, that is the end of today's video. Thank you as always for watching. Be sure to subscribe and see you for the next one. Bye-bye. Love ya.